Okay, that's okay. Good morning, everyone. It's good to see you, all of you. I'm just real blessed to be with you this morning. I want to talk this morning about something that is interesting to me, and I don't really fully understand it yet, and I don't think anybody does. And when I say that, you'll understand what I'm talking about, and I'm talking about quantum mechanics, quantum physics. It was first introduced many, many years ago by a person by the name of Max Planck or Planck. And he was a contemporary of Einstein. As a matter of fact, he recommended Einstein when he was still a clerk working in a patent office in Zurich. He had read some of his beginnings of what later became the general field theory, and he thought he was brilliant. So he recommended him and had him come to actually work in I've now forgotten. I believe it was Berlin. He sent him and he was recommended. And one of the things that he said is, you'll get a salary and everything, but you'll just be able to work on what you're doing. You won't be stuck with doing classes and teaching. And Einstein picked up on that immediately and thought, well, I'm not really a teacher anyway, so that's wonderful. So he did, and he recommended him, and he recommended him for a Nobel Prize and all sorts of things. They were pretty close, except when it came to this. The idea of a field of relativity, the general idea of relativity, was brought forth by Einstein and accepted, and we all accept that now. That it's and what it basically says is there's a field of gravity that exists much like a net, and all things of mass float on this net, and and then whoever has the most mass has the highest degree of gravity and will pull all these other things into it. Now, what happens is you'd think that if it's pulling on it, it would just go directly into it. But since it's rotating, and the other one is also rotating and moving, they move away from one another all the time. So it falls to where the sun used to be. And the sun moves out of that, and that causes this arc, this orbit around. And that's what we have. And the moon does the same thing with us and all the other planets. And he saw it as an imaginary net or a field, as he called it, a field of gravity that existed out there. And everything is just kind of bouncing around in it. And that's what had been accepted for years and years because it fit and could be mathematically proved using the Aristotle's idea of how gravity works or how all these planets float together. Now, this works great. What Einstein came up with works great in one kind of field that we in Unity understand. And that is what we call, it works good in the conscious mind. In the conscious mind, we have relativity. We have things that are based on opposites. Opposites in not only in the physical world, but opposites in the mental world. When we are describing things that are happening to us in this idea of hi Eileen, good to see you.
Hi.
Uh, in this idea of the way things work in the physical realm. That's all great when we say this in the conscious mind. But the conscious mind doesn't explain very well quantum mechanics. Just doesn't do it very well. Now, quantum mechanics is, I want to just get into this just real briefly, and that is that let's just, and this is one of the ways that they explain, that Planck explained quantum mechanics, which he did basically just simply mathematically, but, and that's what proved that it was real. But he explains it this way to us. He says, think of light. We see light in two different ways, depending on what's going on. We see light as particles, and it can be explained and viewed as particles of light, and also as waves, light waves, just like radio waves and all these other types of waves that we see in the Aristotelian view of things that Einstein described. We see it this way, waves or particles. Well, when is it a wave? When is light a wave? And when is it a particle? It is a wave or a particle when there is something, usually a human brain, observing it. Without the observation of it, it's either a particle or a wave, and no one can tell. But when viewed, suddenly it becomes one or the other, either a particle or a wave. Now that's okay. All right, so that sounds kind of magical, but let's take that just a step further, as Planck did. It's described that if you take a particle and you observe its rotation, and you take another exact particle, its twin, and you observe its rotation, one is going clockwise and one is going counterclockwise. Now, if you somehow place an magnetic effect on one of those particles and reverse its orbit from clockwise to counterclockwise, the other one, its twin, automatically starts going the opposite way. When one is going this way, the other one doesn't go the same way, it goes the opposite way. When you change this one changes. It's amazing. Now, here's the more amazing part. It doesn't matter how much distance there are between the two. Distance has no effect on it whatsoever. It still follows this law. That when one changes direction, the other one changes direction. This can happen light years away from one another. Light years away, and they still follow this. Well, what's that all about? Well, that's described as quantum entanglement. They are entangled, or they are connected, no matter the distance, no matter the time of day, no matter the magnetic sphere of revolvement going on in this. When one revolves one way, the other one revolves the opposite way. They are connected even through time and space. How can this be? What's going on here? Einstein listened to all this and he decided it's just voodoo. That's what he called it. He called it voodoo mathematics. It looks good on paper. It makes sense. You can describe it fully out all the way, every decimal, every change, everything about it, but it's not real. It's not real in the world we live in. So Einstein is looking at the world one way, and Planck is describing it. He's not living in another world, but he's describing it in another way. What's going on here? How can they both be right? How can both of these ideas be right? Well, we do the same thing in what we call the law of mind action in unity. And that is, the law of mind action, as you all know, is described with a little poetic way of memorizing it, and that is that thoughts held in mind produce after their kind. Okay, where are those thoughts held in mind? Are they held in the physical realm, or are they held in the in something else, a spiritual realm, the soul realm. Where are they? Well, we call that consciousness and subconsciousness. And the two are described as thoughts held in mind in the conscious produces after its kind, but also in the subconscious. Thoughts held in mind in the subconscious produce after their kind. We are drawing to us ideas that are held in our subconscious. Now, here's the biggest difference between the consciousness and the subconsciousness. Very much like the same thing with the idea of quantum mechanics and the field of gravitational field that Einstein was predicting. These two different fields, two different consciousnesses. One is a conscious, one is subconscious. Here's the thing about the subconscious. The subconscious does not recognize negativity at all. It doesn't recognize a negative thought. And it's often described to us this way. Close your eyes and picture something. Now close your eyes and here's the way it works. In the conscious mind, close your eyes and picture a robin, if you will. Just picture a robin. You see the orange breast, you see it, and you see it hopping around and everywhere. Now I ask you, do not picture a robin. Do not do it. Do not. The conscious mind can see it. The subconscious mind does not recognize the command to not do it because the subconscious mind does not recognize negative thoughts, negative commands. It does not at all. Having said that, if the subconscious mind does not recognize a negative, then where is it that we are holding these thoughts that are drawn to ourselves? When we picture ourselves and we say, I'm not as young as I used to be. I'm not as capable as I used to be. I am not feeling the same way that I used to feel. When we say these things, it's recognized by the conscious mind, but still the negative mind does not recognize these nots that you're putting in front of it. It doesn't recognize that. You are still whole. You are still free. You are still unlimited in all ways that is pictured within the soul, within the spirit, within the subconscious idea of who you are and in the subconscious idea of your being, of each one of us. None of us are different in this way. So thoughts held in the subconscious mind can only produce if the conscious mind allows them, if they are married together. Thoughts plus feelings produce manifestation. Now, if you're not willing to accept what the subconscious mind believes, then you will fall prey to the conscious mind, which will be telling you things that are not necessarily true. It's happened throughout our lives. That's why some people have such negative ideas about themselves or negative ideas about the world that they are living in. The conscious mind sees these things as though they are real. A Course in Miracles teaches us that ain't so. That is not so. I love this. In one of the first paragraphs in A Course in Miracles, it says, the chair that you call a chair is not a chair. What is that? That's borrowed from Taoism. The Tao that you call the Tao is not the Tao. In other words, anytime you try to capture something and hold it in the physical realm, you have limited it in so many ways. And the limitation is not real. The limitation is not real. hold within your mind only ideas of truth. In Thoughts on Truth, it's described this way. Prayer is not to be a beseeching way of trying to connect yourself with God or with the infinite presence. Prayer is supposed to be a spoken word coming from you that describes truth. Powerful words of truth are what our prayers should be. Positive action within prayer. So, that's the way Unity teaches it. We describe this as perfect ways. One presence and one power is absolute. One presence and one power. Now, if you think about that just for a moment, this idea that we have in Unity of one presence and one power, well then, what is the opposite of that? There is no opposite. The absolute has no opposite. As you've heard me describe many times before, if we could get to the place where God is, or where infinite spirit presence is, if we could get to that place and observe it, nothing's going on. Nothing's going on. There's nothing there to see. There's nothing there to hear. There's nothing going on because we are not viewing it with our conscious mind. We are viewing it or describing it or feeling it with our subconscious mind. That's where spirit abides, in the subconscious. Now, having said that, you see, that's the same view as quantum theory and quantum mechanics. Planck went on to describe that the only thing that is gravity. Anything outside of gravity is just an appearance. Simply an appearance. It's not really there in the quantum theory's projection of reality. Oh, that doesn't mean that we don't have a sun and we don't have planets going around it, orbiting it, and so forth. But that is only important. I'm not saying it's not true. It's just not important whatsoever, because that all exists in the conscious mind. The conscious mind holds on to negativity. The conscious mind expresses negativity. The conscious mind expresses comparisons between objects. In the conscious mind, there is relative thought and relative being. This or that. Always a second. Always a second. In the absolute mind of things, in the subconscious, there's only one. Now, if we get to that place, if we finally get to that place where we can observe and feel that presence of only one, then we are awakened to a different way of viewing life and viewing the world that we live in. Right now, in the world that we live in, many of us are seeing things that we don't like. We are seeing creative actions being taken in ways that we aren't happy about. Our observations are that there's something going on that is right and something going on that is wrong. That's all in the conscious mind. In our spiritual being, who we truly are, there is only one presence, only one life, only one being. That is the gravity that holds us in place and holds us to a place where we can experience love, grace, happiness, lack of confusion. Everything is just going on as we wish it were, only in the conscious mind. We have to take that even deeper to that place that I'm describing, that place where nothing is going on. All things are going on because nothing is going on. That's hard for our minds to wrap around that, and hard for us to hold on to, because we slip into the conscious mind so easily. We believe it's all true. We believe it's all there in front of us and that it is unfolding, and we must observe and pay attention to that. But it's much like in The Wizard of Oz. Pay no attention to the man behind the curtain. Pay no attention to any of that. Keep yourself in that place of truth in your consciousness. Let your prayers and your meditations be focused on positivity, on the oneness of all that is, including yourself. If we can do this only briefly, then we are on our way to doing it more and more consciously. Get ourselves to a place where we are one with all, and stay there as long as we can. You know, the funny thing about meditation is that you can be meditating, and suddenly your mind will say to yourself, I'm doing it, I'm meditating. And as soon as you reach that point, you're not doing it any longer. You've awakened once again to this consciousness as opposed to the subconsciousness. Allow yourself to simply relax, be, and allow the world to be as it is, as though we are living in that quantum mechanical idea of the world, as opposed to the theory of relativity, which holds us in an idea of good and bad, opposites. Let that go. God bless. Thanks.